What is your root?
My roots are from Michoacan, and largely Purépecha, indigenous.
Oh yeah,
And
that's an amazing guerrillero.
no, yeah, I mean we're the only folks on record that beat up the Mexica, aka the Aztecs.
Yep.
Hey, they try to bully us. We don't like bullies. That's all it is.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, and the stories in the family are that the Mandujano route, which was like more the European route, that arrived to the village, our ancestral village in Michoacan. It's not clear whether it's French or Italian. So, I don't know. Maybe something else. I don't know. But definitely Purépecha. Yeah. So, and actually this Saturday we're having the 8th annual Reencuentro Purépecha, the largest Purépecha event outside of Michoacan, in Farmersville, one that we started, 8 years ago, of course. Pero, and it's one of the programs of Proyecto Purépecha under the Leap Institute.
That must be people proud of you as a Purépecha being the mayor of this county.
Yeah, maybe.
I like that.
Yeah.
So you were telling us a really great account of because I wanted to ask you first,
So public health is
how
important.
You ended up sitting on that table.
So what I was leading to in terms of the story of my interest and involvement in public health, early on for me was like, why don't MDs either also get a MPH, or that there's a good amount of coursework that provides them the understanding so that they're not reductionists in terms of health, right? Maybe this report could highlight the need to enhance the system so that doctors could come out not only with a better understanding of the people's full health and having an approach that is with respect to that, but also, as an environmental justice leader and activist, the whole thing about pesticides, right? And some environmental impacts to health that doctors are just not trained on it at all. And maybe it's a really brief scan of the subject, but not well enough so that when they're on the ground in the rural community like you're on, and somebody is dealing with a pesticide drift, ailment, they'll prescribe it something else, but not what it is, because they just don't know. I don't know if the science is strong enough out there to provide them an understanding so that they could try to nail it down, or at least, tighten up the circle to better understand what it may be, and therefore may associate it with a toxin, aka pesticides or whatever. But the other thing is valley fever. Yeah. That's rampant, especially right now with all this dust. It's like it's not good to be out there breathing that air.
I saw all these workers out there with shovels, and they're sitting there, and just dust everywhere. And by the way, there's no dust here. Go east, my friend. It's
I just came
crazy.
from the northeast.
It's like
and
sci-fi land over there.
Yeah, and there's areas where you can't even see. It's like if it's foggy.
Yeah.
But it's dust.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's terrible. And so the same thing with valley fever is like, I had valley fever. I'm a survivor, 2006. And the doctor kept saying that it was this, it was that, kept getting prescribing medicine. And ultimately, the doctor prescribed me Robitussin. I said, wait a minute. Why is it when I breathe at the end, towards the end, there's a pinch, and then I cough? You know what I mean? And he said, oh, just take Robitussin. I said, no. I need you to send me to the x-ray. I need an x-ray, as I was at Kaiser. He said, oh, no, I had to bully the guy. I had to bully the doctor to demand that he provide me what I wanted, an x-ray, right? But what hurts me and what frustrates me is the fact that if it was my dad or another farm worker, okay, doctor, gracias. And what would happen? Next thing you know, they're losing half their lung or they're dead, right? So then the impact from not knowing, of something that's specific to a region or that a certain, group of people may be more vulnerable to could be deadly or at least extremely costly. Most likely to that family who most likely is of the vulnerable class, priority population, that don't have the resources to deal with it.
Absolutely.
right? So not only is it a health injustice, it's an economic injustice brought about because of an environmental injustice, right? And it becomes worse if they're from a isolated geographic area and they got to pay money, $100 to get there.
Yeah.
So then we're talking about a transportation injustice. But that's why Green Raiteros exists, a program we have with electric vehicles where we take families. But that's only one little piece to the solution.
So, but tell
We
us
still
about-
have this whole system,
Mhm.
you know, I don't know, if benign? I don't know why that comes to mind.
benign neglect or
Yeah.
yeah.
Of the matters that, you know, that have huge impact in the families, you know, or just ignoring it, you know.
So tell us more. I mean, Sarah's told us a little bit about Green Raiteros. Tell us about that program, please.
Well, Green Raiteros is basically evolution of a traditional system that provides rides to farm workers to where they got to go, and most commonly doctor's appointments, you know, medical, you know, public health oriented. And
Created program.
Raiteros has existed since I was a kid. My uncle's one, and he would take me and my mom to the hospital. I remember particularly in the time when my cousin was at the hospital in his deathbed. And so the day that he was going to die, he wasn't available because he took other people, other relatives, to be there with my cousin. And that day we had to take the bus. That day I was on the bus for 3 hours to get to a place that only takes 45 minutes in the car. So that stuck in my mind. So fast forward, you know, at the Council of Government meetings, I'm there advocating to improve, you know, transportation for rural communities. And they're saying we can't do it. What we got is all we have and all we'll have because it's too costly, blah, blah, blah. So then comes a time when I kind of, everywhere I organize, I'll organize a committee. And with that committee, we start doing work in terms of, they become the board. And I find out what they need on the ground, and then I help them, you know, identify one thing, and then work towards the solution of it, right? So my committee here in town, and at Huron, most of them were raiteros. So I engaged them. I said, you know what? I got this idea about using electric hybrid cars. This is before those plug-in hybrids on the street. This is when there's just hybrids, and not even plug-in hybrids, right? And the city had a couple of hybrids. I said maybe we could use those. So we could use from the city, blah, blah, blah. I just, you know, was thinking about a lot of things without taking into account, you know, legal concerns that the city would have and ultimately say, no, we can't work with you on that. But at least I got my noodles going.
Yeah.
And so so they said, yeah, let's do it. All right. So then in 2014, I wrote an article about it, the first version of how I saw it, and it kept on evolving. Ultimately in 2016, towards the end, I got some capacity support, you know, and this whole time, like advocating for it, you know, a lot of basically pro bono work, you know. But, you know, in 2016, we got a capacity support. And in 2017, early 2017, we got the resources to build all this. And so basically got off the ground from then, from that point on. And so the whole goal is to help farm worker families to get their transportation needs taken care of, that will ensure them maintaining a good health, staying strong, and a ride that is safe, secure, comfortable, you know, and clean, you know, not leaving a carbon footprint in the process.
That's great. So were you mayor then? Where were you at when you were?
I was running from, you know, in 2016, I moved back to Huron. I moved with my dad, who passed away in 2018.
Sorry.
And so right across the street here, we got an apartment behind the family business. And so with the whole vision of working on getting this shop to be an electric vehicle maintenance center, to be the headquarters for Green Raiteros. And so that was what I came for. And then when people found out I moved back into town, they started asking me, as they did 2 years prior, to run for mayor. 2 years prior, I said, I live in Fresno, I can't run. Nah, so what? So what? Nah, you're crazy, man. You know? So this time I thought about it. And in 2012, I helped the city get a grant, Caltrans Environmental Justice Grant, a planning grant. And so in 2014, we published a report, you know, after getting over 100 farm worker families involved on identifying the needs for Lassen to become safe, more accessible and improve mobility. And so the report had a bunch of policy recommendations that by 2016, one of the thought processes was, all right, well, if I was mayor, what would I do? By 2016, none of those recommendations had been fulfilled, even though we got the three main recommendations into the general plan. And so I said, well, either I get a grant to force the city council to do this, or I become mayor and work it from the inside. So I became, last minute. The papers are due like tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. And so finally I said, you know what? All right, I'll do it. Because of that and a few other things that kind of I was ticked off at, because of just the lack of attention that the leadership was putting on my community and just letting it go. And so,
in Huron?
Yeah, in Huron. And the county too. But anyhow, so then today I said, I made my mind. I go pick up the paperwork, come back, fill it out, get the signatures I need, go to houses, call people, just hustling. And actually, I think it was a day before. Because I remember that night I was on it, And so then the next day, before the afternoon, I get back to Fresno and turn everything in and put my name on the ballot, they register my name. So now on the computer I come up. So I think the predecessor thought that she was going to be uncontested again. And her already like having done the combination council and mayor like 20-some years, And nothing changed, And so I engaged one of my mentees' relatives, family members. They had a birthday party, and she invited me. Come, Ray, so you can tell about you running. All right. And then so I went and I recruited folks. Had a little campaign committee, about 10, 12 people, young people. 27 was the oldest, And they're all like, most of them like young family with little babies, maybe a few kids, like kind of like, what happens in here, families start young. And so I registered them all to vote. It was the first time they got registered to vote. First time they registered to vote. In the process, they learned how to register people to vote. And they turned around and registered a little under 200 folks to vote. Took the 900 to pass the 1,000, registered voters in Huron. And tabled and did, I made, I'm good at, putting together like, pamphlets and, little, I would always do as a vice president of the Mexican American Political Association or associate president, I would do cheat sheets, like, how to vote on propositions and all that stuff. And so I did that, got in the mailbox. So by the time the VBMs came in, the vote by mail ballots, they also had my cheat sheet on how to vote. I had my slate and propositions, and then the information on me. New energy for real change. And clean energy, powered by nopales and frijoles. But so I ended up winning by 76% of the vote. I was at 75% when they registered all the vote by mail, and then the on-site took it up 1%.
That's called a landslide.
Yeah.
That's
and
great.
So it's 2-year terms. This is my third. Next November, I think I'm going to do it again because I mentioned those priorities from the report that over 100 farm worker families that were engaged in the charrette and the walk audit and all that good stuff, helped us put together the data. And the technicians, the consultants were on tap, not on top. They basically just took all that language, made it into technical jargon with graphics and all that pretty stuff. And we created that report. So the three main things were a multimodal, culturally relevant pedestrian refuge, roundabout, and a bike lane infrastructure. And a number of other of them were about crosswalks here, this and that, and a bunch of other stuff, right? So I continue to work on. Wow, why am I getting so many phone calls, man?
You're a man in demand.
It's Indigenous Peoples Day, man. Give me a break. I gave my staff off because we recognize Indigenous Peoples Day. Yeah, so
So that's amazing to sort of see where you were and what was going on, like taking us up to about January of 2020.
Mm.
What changed? Right? How did you begin to see, whoa, something's happening with this virus stuff?
Okay, well, hold on. Before we get there, I'm gonna finish my introductory statement.
I'm sorry.
Anyways, working on the multimodal culturally relevant pedestrian refuge, aka Plaza. That's a graphic of it right there. So I've been working on that one, for a minute now. We've been able to fundraise about at least $500,000. We bought the lot, we extended it. We need $7 million more. We're waiting to see what the state says. We got $2 million earlier this year to take care of bike lane infrastructure on Lassen. We're gonna be probably the first city in the valley that has a Class 4 bike lane on a state route.
Wow.
And so we're gonna add like 5 crosswalks. All the crosswalks are gonna have pedestrian controlled lights, to flash, because all the kids on this side of town have to cross to go to that side of town, where the elementary and the middle school are. And so, and one of the lights where it's going to be a red light, hawk light, that you press it, it's red light, stops the traffic code, whatever it is. So anyways, I've accomplished all but one of my goals. Actually, and I've accomplished other goals that I wasn't, yeah, like all the lighting. And actually I included the brochure because I was walking streets, learning from people. I said, well, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Lighting was part of it. Mm-hmm. So that was the first thing. Got on the horn, February 2017, brand new mayor, and started getting on PG&E. So I switched out all the lights, all the ones that weren't working, to LED. And then I got them to switch out all the rest of them to LED. So over 200 lights. So we saved like $5,000 a month just in, electricity. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so the main thing was that those areas were pitch dark, the neighborhood. One corner where a family was sending their daughter, who has special needs, to wait for the bus. In the fall and the winter, it's pitch dark. The light wasn't working. So that was the anchor. It's like, how can you guys allow this?
That's ADD stuff.
That's a safety issue. Yeah. So I got on them. You need to switch that one. These. As a matter of fact, switch them all to LED, And so it took me a few months. They wanted to do it like in a year. I said, no. I kept hitting on them. Finally, I was able to happen within a few months. From February to May. And May is when they did it. And they wanted to do it in November. I said, no. We've waited long enough. So that was like the first quick victory. The second huge one, as an EJ activist, advocating for better transportation and also for infrastructure for the west side. Always fighting for the state route 269 bridge. Do you guys come in from over here? So you guys cross my bridge.
Yeah.
So we've been needing a bridge.
Yeah. The heart of the valley.
Yeah. Heart of the valley. Heart of the valley bridge.
That name. So look at that name here.
So, and that's our motto of the city of León, right? So we've been needing that bridge for 100 years. 1995, because we did not have that bridge, people from Huron that worked at Harris Ranch, of course, didn't come this way during the storm. They knew they had to take the alternate route. They took the 5. What they didn't know is that the Arroyo Pasajero bridge on I-5 had been washed out by the storm. 6 of our residents died. 1995. And we still don't get a fucking bridge. Oh, excuse my French.
It's okay.
So then, and the leadership should have been on it right there and then. And I mentioned that story because then I become part of the council of government's board. I mentioned that story in my advocacy to make the bridge one of 3 items to be prioritized for the Fresno County. And I got people fighting back on it. And it's an interesting audio. It's an hour-long fucking fight. Me fighting to get it as one of the 3 priorities. And I had to reform the whole slate in terms of setting up three levels. The first one is super priorities, 3 of them, and the rest, second priorities, we provide a little fact sheet on it. The third one, we just mention it and have it on the list with 1 paragraph. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. How basically we did it when the Central Valley Air Quality Coalition in our advocacy in Sacramento, our awareness creation. And I'm a co-founder of the Central Valley Air Quality Coalition. So I had them reshape it how we did it. And then I fought to get the bridge on the first, the first sector of the 3 main ones to be prioritized for the region. And the bridge, of course, being the only environmental justice project. None of the others were about closing down or people dying, or it was just about enhancing, elongating, making wider, and
Infrastructure.
yeah, but it wasn't about keeping open,
Yeah.
which Huron was the only one that would get shut down, and people died in '95,
Yeah.
and even after that, it took all these years to get that bridge done. So my statement was, in 1995, people died on 216. People died on the I-5 because there was no bridge on 269. So anyways, I win the battle. I get it on the top 3 priorities of the county. I have to fight at home to get support to go to D.C. Because, see, I'm the guy that doesn't go around for council and just run straight for mayor. And all the council, most of them didn't like that. So they weren't supporting me on a lot of things. One day I had to kind of like just put them, I'm still your mayor. The people voted. I won. The council don't select the mayor. The people do. Which is a cool thing. I like the feeling of that. I like the ability to say, yeah, the people put me there, So anyhow, I had a fight to get the support to go to D.C. I go to D.C., and that was my messaging. Boom. Congress members, Senator Feinstein, she helped us out in getting Army Corps of Engineers to back off because they want to do a study for 3 more years. They've done a bunch of studies. And it don't change because nothing has changed. Why are they going to do another study, right? She helped us get them back off. And then U.S. Bureau of Reclamation, another obstacle that we hit on them hard enough to where they said, all right, we'll prioritize the 269 bridge. So anyways, we break ground in 2017, and we cut ribbon in 2018. You just crossed the bridge. Took a year to build. Yeah. ¿Tú crees? It's like, and my colleagues, like the veterans that were on the council, oh yeah, we've been fighting for that forever. And to me, it's like, yeah, man, but it's like in boxing. You could, like, what's it called? Like where you clout, or what is it? Like, I box that guy. Oh, I box that guy. Oh, I box that guy. You, what's that word? No. Te das lujo de que peleaste acá y allá. What's that word? You brag. You brag about your fights. It's like, yeah, wow, we've been fighting that forever. I said, yeah, man, but who knocked it out? It's like, because every time when I would advocate for the bridge at the Council of Governments, I would never see our mayor there. Why? Because a lot of times she was conflicted out. Because she was a driver for the bus. For the rural transit. Right? So she wasn't able to do the job that we put her on there to do. Yeah. And she was fine with that. Mediocre. Or less than. Right?
Sin compromiso.
Y so, gracias a Dios, tenemos el puente.
That's great.
And that's one, that was like the biggest victory that, I can't remember if I mentioned it on the pamphlet. I may have, I don't know. But it wasn't like, I'm going to get it done. I'm going to fight for it. But it's like, I thought it was going to be harder than what it was because these folks have never did it in 100 years. Yeah. And I guess you just need a little bit more oomph.
Now you have tell us about the reiteros and the bridge. And what else? You said you had three achievements.
Okay, so I'm part of the mayor is like the last making it safer. So we just got the $2 million. The engineering's happening for that. More crosswalks, and every crosswalk's gonna have a light. And then so the kids could cross safe. And a class 4 bike lane.
All right.
That's part of the whole safety. On M Street, we're gonna have another bike lane, class 4. So you're gonna be able to do laps, like a mile a lap, maybe more, mile and a half. Safe.
Yeah.
Safe.
It's public health.
Yeah. Exactly.
Let me connect these to public health. First of all, the lighting. My spill, I was calling it bright lights for safe streets. The whole notion is if we have lighting in the community, it's not going to feel as dangerous, but it's going to feel safer. then you could walk to the store. You walk to the store, you exercise. You walk to the store, there's eyes on the street. There's going to be more eyes on the street. That's a safer neighborhood, right?
Yeah.
And also what you're not doing is driving.
Yeah.
You're not polluting, and you're not wasting money on gas.
Mm-hmm.
So on every end, it's safer. Public safety, personal health, public health, air quality, right?
That's great.
Boom.
Yeah.
So in terms of the bike lanes, you know, there I'd always noticed there was congestion. Now they redid the school. And if you guys want to throw a cruise, I could give you a tour too. And we could talk about all this stuff. And I'm getting hungry. So it's going to be tacos and tour.
That sounds really good to me.
So they changed it how it is, but at the elementary school and even middle school, they get congested. A lot of cars idling, a lot of pollution, the kids crossing. It's crazy. You know, now saying, well, if there was safe routes to get to school, the kids and the parents could trust those routes. The kids could bike or walk to school and be safe. And not so many cars would have to go to the school. I grew up as a little kid. My mom would send me to school like this, walking.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what is that? Like first grade. If not, I don't know. I was small. I just remember looking into the fence over there. It's no longer there, but there's like a barn, a fence. There's sheep in there. Man, the folks from that we call Spaniards here in Huron, they're Basque. Yeah. So your people, or part of your people, like your arm. Algo. So in the late 1800s, early 1900s, one of the biggest producers of wool at a national scale was the Huron area. Basque and Mexicans, you know. Huron became a poblado because it was a water stop for the rail. And the train would go to coaling station A to get coal. Stop in Huron for water. You know, coaling station A, Coalinga, right? And so later, you know, farm labor. Coalinga became what is that? Standard Petroleum, you know. Now Chevron, City, oil workers, Huron, farm labor workers. So the camps were tarps at one point. Then they built some facilities. We got one over here, one over there. And so Huron was born as a farm labor camp. You know, I think probably earlier in those days, there was still Tulare Lake, or Tulare Lake, whatever, which was considered the largest lake west of the Mississippi. That the farmers, Boswell, you know, most, what's the term? Infamously sucked up, you know. And so that's, you know, some history.
It's amazing.
And but in the early like 30s, 40s, maybe leading into the 50s, and what provided Huron its economic base to become a city in 1951 was cotton. You know, Huron in the 40s particularly was had the highest cotton production at an international scale. Highest cotton producer at an international scale.
Wow.
Under Giffen Farms, which were hundreds of thousands of acres. Out of Giffen Farms, you cut it up, then you got Harris Ranch, Boswell, Wolf, all these other guys that are smaller than Giffen was, but larger than all the other farmers, you know, on the east of the valley. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So before I led into that, what was I saying?
Well, you're talking about all of your priorities and how you've accomplished those, and we're and also thinking about art.
And we were talking about the congestion, right?
Yep.
So I got off on a tangent from the barn with the sheep. And so anyhow, so all of that's public health, infrastructure. So why can't we ensure that elements of equity and public health are also ingrained in planning, in the MD degree, and all these degrees that have to deal with humans and the quality of life of humans? Police academy, right? You know,
Sí.
yeah. And so I always say police should be more like Jedi and less like stormtroopers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, have some sort of consciousness to be able to kind of talk with folks in a way where, you know, like.
I'm really interested in what happened with the pandemic. So along comes.
Okay, but we're not here for that.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. All right, first let's go with her question, then we'll get into the pandemic.
No. What I was you be a fighter. You have your cause, and how this have changed. And I go with the same question.
She's leading towards your question.
The pandemic. How your goals have been enhanced, diminished, interconnected, or more
Altered or whatever.
More fuzzy. Because sometimes happens.
So when the pandemic went down, I mean, basically it's just like observing, right? What's going on? You know, who's doing what? You know, it's the first thing for all of us, right? First time, you know, for all of us. I've never lived in the pandemic, you know, but so for me, one of the first things that I did, and learning from my constituents that businesses were they were closing down their public restrooms, you know, at a time when we needed people who would wash their hands, you know, and one of the first things that I did was, and I think we're the first city in the county for sure, not sure if in the region, but may have been, I don't know. My idea was to actually manufacture, you know, hand washing stations, you know. So I had already had a sketch going on, you know. I like doing that stuff, you know. Then I told my city manager, hey, let's get Public Works to build some of these. And then he shared it with Public Works. Public said, nah, for you guys are crazy. We're too busy to be building that type of stuff. And then the city manager, you know, did a little bit of research and found out, which, you know, it's kind of common around here in the fields, found out that there's mobile hand washing stations. Hey, Mayor, we could rent some. Yeah, let's do it. So we got them, and we were the first city in the county to put out hand washing stations for the public on the main street. So I even did a video, you know, talking about, you know, what was that one thing they would tell you to sing?
Happy birthday.
Yeah, I said, de colores, you know, up to this point. That's all you need to do. So I recorded a video. You know, colores, y así, la. You know what I mean? Make it culturally, you know, relevant. And so I recorded myself, you know, and posted it. I had a friend, I had the guy from the store, actually, a Yemenis brother. And so, you know, and going around and talked to a friend of mine. He's went to Berkeley with him. He's a supervisor of Monterey County, Luis Alejo, former assembly member, former chair of the Chicano Latino Legislative Caucus, the Capitol. And I said, hey, so what are you guys doing over there? He told me what they were doing at the county level. And of course, they're more progressive, you know. They're very ag, not as much as us, but still very ag. And their electeds are a good amount more progressive than ours, you know. And so it was talking about the good work they were doing at the county level, the ag commissioner. And so I called the ag commissioner and I started saying, hey, you know, what are you guys doing? You know, why don't you guys do this? Oh, no, we're already meeting and we're trying to figure it out, blah, blah, blah. And really they weren't doing smack, you know. They were just sitting down and complaining about things or whatever, you know. But what they did do is they got in a bunch of masks like months later. And she calls me, yeah, so we got a bunch of masks and sanitizer. You want some? I said, yeah, of course. How many do you want? I get a big old fat number, you know. And for me, it's like, you know, if I don't get them all, okay. But whatever I get, then I'm going to make sure that not just Huron is taken care of. You know, I got my folks, my friends on the west side, you know. We got San Joaquin, Mendota, Fireball, and the little unincorporated communities in between, Colinga on this side. So I've always been kind of, you know, raised in city, you know, Riverdale, you know, all those other communities. And so, and I got, you know, there are a lot of people from all these communities have people from where I'm from, like Piedad, Michoacán, you know. And so, and not just because of that, but, you know, farm workers deserve, you know, the respect and the equipment so that they could withstand this pandemic. And so, you know, so right off the bat, you know, I became Mil Máscaras, you know. The Mexican wrestler, Mil Máscaras. He's got each time he wrestles, he's got a different mask, you know. But mil máscaras for me, because every box had 1,000 masks in it.
So how'd you distribute them?
I would go to the cities, talk to, I had a friend, superintendent, or a board member at school district in Fireball, and he's, you know, connected with all the folks there. You know, I know some of the council members, the mayor in Mendota with the mayor, and also with a leader in the community, a woman who's connected with a lot of seniors, and in San Joaquin with a nonprofit, CBO, and also a small business that belonged to a former council member, Ornelas, who passed away. Actually, he went to Mexico to visit family, and he got COVID out there and died.
No.
Yeah, it was like fucking it. This is before the vaccine, you know. Yeah, we're you know, really good guy, man. You know, corazón de oro este hombre, man. Bien buena onda. So I'd drop off there and they distribute, Raisin City at the school, you know, and here, you know, out of here, we'll set up a table, you know, just go to the businesses, drop off boxes, you know, masks that they could give out, and sanitizers, you know, the big bottles, you know. So for months. To this day, we're still doing some of that, you know, because been able to kind of lock down a bunch of. We are very well supplied, and we just every event, boom, we take thousands. You know, every event. You know, now it's not about not having it. We got an abundance of it, and we give it away. You know, because that's what it's for. You know, and so yeah. I mean, you know, we passed before the state of California made masks mandatory. We did, in the city of Huron, and so I just wish that our enforcement, you know, agency, the PD, could have been a little bit more, you know, I would have to kind of remind them and kind of pressure them and kind of like, you know, I would have to kind of like try to twist their arm, you know, to be a little bit more stringent with the public, to let them know, with the businesses, to let them know. I would go to businesses and I would remind them, you know, but I don't want to be that guy, you know.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like I was put in that position to have to be that guy. You know, like, nah, you know, I would even, at least one occasion, like a little argument, you know, like, no, I mean, if you want, you know, and people say, Ray, why aren't they demanding that customers don't have masks? I said, well, we've already told them they're supposed to, you know, if they continue with that behavior, don't support them. That's all, you know, I can't go in there and get them to force them, you know what I mean? I'm a wrestler, that's why I'm all like, you know, pin them down. All right, you gonna give them mask? You gonna give them? But, so, you know, there's just so much that you can do, you know? And it's frustrating because then people think it's my fault. You know, as a mayor, it's like, it's all your fault, you know, all of it.
Yeah.
So you got to have thick skin. Luckily, I grew up as the youngest of 7 with most of my brothers being bullies. I got thick skin. So
how hard did COVID-19 hit the farm worker families in Huron?
You know what? In Huron, it didn't hit it as hard as what I've, you know, known in other communities. And
What do you mean not at heart? You know,
from the people that I know that have passed away from COVID that live in Huron or from Huron and no longer live in Huron, I could probably count them with 2 hands, if not with 1, you know, that actually died. In terms of infections, of course, you know, but in terms of infections, we were much less than Parlier, much less than Mendota, much less than Colinga. We were kind of a little bit more ahead of the game. They were more like, Colinga especially, were more like Trumpian in their approach and saying, oh no, you know, the state can't force us to do this. Then when the money came down, no, we want some of that money too. Yeah, but you put yourself out of the game, you know, by not participating, right? And they're all crying up because of that. It's like, yeah, Colinga's very conservative, and they've always been. And right now we got a movement. Well, that's another thing. So anyhow, so I think, you know, but right now it seems like people are way too relaxed, you know. Just recently I found out that a good friend whose father is Basque, his father Santiago Arano, he's Santi Arano, you know, he's a junior and younger than me, probably about by 6 years. Just had a baby girl not too long ago. Well, he wasn't vaccinated. He's a truck driver. And he was going to Texas. Started feeling sick. Decided to turn around. he didn't make it. He died out there near Tucson. So that number isn't, isn't counted for California. I guess it's probably already I don't know if they would count it for California. I'm thinking they should, man. It's a California resident, right? I don't know, but because I seen the somewhere on the paper that showed how many deaths in California for the past week or something, and he had died, and it said 0. I said, wow, I guess they're not counting Californians that are outside of the state that died because of it.
What happened when somebody got gravely ill here? Where did they go? How did they get transported there? Because at that point, that's kind of crucial.
Well, I'm assuming they call the ambulance because we haven't gotten any calls, and we share that we're a non-emergency medical transport. So don't call us if you've gotten shot. Call the ambulance. You know what I mean? Or whatever of emergency, call the ambulance. The clinic, in terms of now, there's a bunch of resources. Now you could do a rapid test at least once a week in Huron. You could do the ordinary 3-day test a couple of times in Huron, Tuesdays and Thursdays. Vaccination, they got it at the pharmacy out there in Coalinga, and I think they're offering it at the clinic now too. So it's like, it's all that's very, very well available. And we've organized at least a couple of events for vaccination where we've had free tacos available and just kind of like a, vax party,
So where's the nearest ICU? Where's the nearest, hospital that would have the sort of COVID treatment that they would need?
Either Hanford or Fresno. Yeah. For the heavy duty, if they're really in bad shape, Hanford or Fresno. Adventist Hospital in Hanford, and Community Medical or one of the other hospitals in Fresno.
So what about the raiteros? Because all of a sudden, being inside
before
the vaccine, being inside an enclosed space like
when I started hearing about the county and other entities working with nonprofits to try to make sure that there was awareness creation and PPE provision, as well as engagement just in general for COVID. Had to do some advocacy to get into the room, and then we put down a proposal and included our green raiteros. So right now I have a COVID team. We do outreach in San Joaquin, Huron, and Coalinga, and we provide PPE. And we have fact sheets that we provide in Spanish, sharing, the general information in terms of just because you've been vaccinated doesn't mean you're scot-free,
To the raiteros. To the drivers.
The raiteros are mostly our staff.
Right.
Now. Yeah. And they're also the ones that are giving information.
So for the
they work like
and
facilitators.
Yeah.
For health.
Yeah, they're promotores. We call them promotores verdes.
Yeah,
or sometimes I say promotor X's verdes. So those millennials and those Generation Z, don't get all fissy on me. Or what do you call it? What's that word? Fussy or what?
So that's fascinating. So they become promotores. They're also the drivers. So you're actually, again, an integrated health model.
Yeah, I guess. And so right now, with the support of the county, anybody with a COVID appointment, whether it be medical, public health, social service, mental health, anything relative to COVID, we'll get you there. Free 99, because the county is covering it. And we tell folks, even if you go and have a doctor's appointment and you're trying to stay healthy, well, part of it is learning from your doctor what COVID, the status of COVID and how it can impact you, what your status in terms of COVID is. We tell them if you have a conversation with your doctor on COVID, then your appointment's COVID related, right? Yeah. And so, yeah.
So how do you think that?
Keep that on the under.
So how do you think the pandemic has changed Huron? Or has it? I mean, the whole thing that had to do with jobs and And just
Well, the small businesses were impacted. You know, the support, the COVID relief, was very much needed for the small businesses. Because there's also a lot of and the policy for non-eviction, you know, it kept it from getting too crazy because with keeping landlords from evicting and then providing resources to pay the rent was, you know, a good move, you know. And even small business they've been able to, you know, benefit from that. So the first round of CARE Act monies came through who was it? Access Plus Capital. It's CDFI, that's in the Economic Opportunities Commission, which I sit on the board for. And so when I learned that they were going to have money available for small business, you know, I had a promotora verde with me at the time, and I had her, you know, to go touch base with all the small businesses. You know, paid her to go do all that work, and we got a bunch of folks to turn in applications, and we were, of the applications available that they provided, ours were like the majority. You know, like we were like the biggest benefactors of those monies within the supervisorial district because we hustled. You know what I mean? It's like most other cities is like they'll just throw it. You know, we did that too. A website, newsletter. But when you have a promotora hitting the ground, talking to them, helping them in the process, because paperwork, if you're a third grade education or even whatever, you know, it's kind of like becomes cumbersome and it's like, I don't want to deal with that shit. I'll just, you know, muscle through it or whatever, right? But anyhow, so we were able to, you know, the first round of CARE Act. So all the other ones after, you know, basically just dropping applications or just announcing. And by that time, there was nonprofits that were kind of coming in and doing the on the ground work. And like, perfect, they're getting money for it, do it. You know what I mean? And so, right now, I'm telling you, it's like people feel more relaxed about it, you know. But the farm workers, like when that was happening, farm workers, nothing ever changed, you know. They're still piling up in vans and in buses. You know, numerous times we set up shop at the Chevron and La Panaderia and set up shop with sanitizer masks, you know. When people are going into the store, the panaderia, boom, give them a pump of sanitizer. They'll go in and they'll come out, give them a bottle of sanitizer and a bag of masks. Boom, boom, boom. You know what I mean?
Amazing. When you couldn't buy sanitizer or masks anywhere in California, you were doing that.
Well, by this time they were coming out, and you could buy them, but they're expensive.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, you know, if you're a farm worker, what is that? That's like less than $23K a year. $23K a year is a Huron median household income, and that's taken into account. There's a bunch of people that are earning 50, 60, 80, 100 that commute outside of town to their professional jobs. Very few of us. You know, I don't even commute anymore because I built my office here. You know, I commute across the alley, right? I still got my office in Fresno, but you know, and so yeah. I mean, we were throwing it down. At first, we were giving one mask a piece because we didn't have that many in the county. But once we started getting more and more, then we're 10 masks a piece. Boom. Right now, we give 10 masks. Right now, the other day I was giving out boxes, like 50 masks of those clinical ones that you guys use. Boom, to folks, you know.
Does mean that the pandemic for you as a mayor kind of an input for your developing your strategy for doing better job and as in your office and for your constituents and get more acceptation also. What do you think?
I think we became more sophisticated, especially after we got capacity support, you know, because now, I mean, you know, as a mayor is one thing, right? But due to the fact that I have the opportunity and privilege to have been able to base my nonprofit in town, you know, then that gives me another mechanism to do the good work that needs to happen, needs to get done, you know. As mayor, more of the policy work, you know, more of me walking down the street And no matter if I say I'm not a mayor, I'm a mayor 24/7. You know, so when I'm talking to them, I'm still the mayor, and they're recognizing that, right? Like with the small businesses, you know, and letting them know about the resources or about the, you know, the importance of using masks, or you know, I'll drop off a box of masks. Sometimes they're like, they, it's like they're not really appreciative of some business. Like, come on, man, at least you know, say thank you, you know. But it's like it's me letting them know use these, right? And some people are for whatever reason, you know, they're I don't know. So, anyways,
So you have.
and I don't know the status of how many people are vaccinated in the community. Last I saw about 3-4 months ago, we're like at 51%, or 40 late 40s%. I don't know where we're at now. You know, I would love to know. One thing that did change is that as mayor, as a city, we, you know, didn't reopen up the farmers market. Too much risk, you know, and it's us, you know, having made masks mandatory. And I don't know if we put a sunset on that policy, but you know, then doing that being kind of contrary, you know. But we haven't, yeah, we didn't. And I'm noticing a bunch of cities are doing their farmers market, doing a bunch of stuff. A bunch of stuff is going on, and even you know me, I'm going out there and you know in the crowd and with a mask on, albeit, but still, it's kind of like you know kind of risky, right? But I have sanitizer with me all the time, or near me in the vehicle, and when my girlfriend was here, every time I touch anything, you know, she's hardcore. But when my mom was around, I was way more careful about everything. You know, she passed away in June, and she didn't want to get vaccinated. She didn't pass away from COVID, you know, but so I was really hardcore. I'm way more hardcore, you know, with my siblings at her house. She was living in Avenel and had masks in there. I'd get pissed off when people would go in the house without masks. When people that didn't need to go inside the house were there, you know, but yeah, after the vaccine became available, there was, you know, there was still some of that, you know, tension because my mom wasn't vaccinated, didn't want to get vaccinated, and so yeah, but I was taking care of myself way more because I was going with my mom, you know.
And you take care of yourself, your family, telling them to take care of themselves.
Yeah. One brother hasn't gotten vaccinated, and he's the one that reported to us about our friend. And me and my cousin told him, well, you should get vaccinated, you know. And supposedly, while his son is vulnerable, he's 12 now, and I don't know if the doctors gave the green light for him to get vaccinated because he's got a special health issue. And so, you know, for more the reason why my brother should also get vaccinated, I think. And they didn't go throughout the pandemic. They didn't go visit my mom. The excuse was because, you know, COVID and worried about the child. And then they catch the plane and go to Michoacan. I'm all like, wow. Now that's you know, that just tells me there's a different reason why he didn't want to, you know. Like, mom would have been good for mom to see her grandchild, you know. But anyhow, so yeah, it's just interesting how a lot of people just don't get it. They don't want to get it. You know, the Trumpian, you know, type of stance on it, even though they are not Trumpians, you know. It's my brother once asked or said something about nanobots. I go, well, what's up with the nanobots? I go, man, that's yeah.
Yeah, that's
and like, and somebody else mentioned it. Well, aren't they nanobots? Well, think of it this way: you'll be the owner of your own nanobots. Yeah, it gets to the point where it's like, man, it's so ridiculous, right?
Yeah, it's great. So you've had an amazing sort of holistic approach to not just health, but to everything that you're trying to integrate here. Whereas usually, all right, so we're the school.
And I think it's because I had that opportunity to get not just the experience on the ground of public health, but the academia portion of it, you know, in the courses that I took at Cal.
In ethnic studies and in School of Public Health.
School of Public Health is a public health, element of all of what I do. I started Berkeley as environmental sciences. I ended up switching to Chicano studies. Then I incorporated public health. What do I do today? All three of those things.
That's great.
Right?
So did the pandemic help? Because you.
So check this out. Check this out. Carlos, check that out real quick.
Because people go by sectors. We're the doctors, we do health. We're the schools, we do education.
What do they call that in
stores, we do capitalism.
silos, right?
So did the pandemic help break down some of those silos?
I would say so, and you see it at a national level, right? That's with the narrative, kind of shifting on that.
Oh, that's great. So you were part of the demand for third world college.
You better believe it.
That's wonderful.
I put in my time when I had the opportunity.
Oh, that's great.